So, have you ever felt like you're just drifting, reacting to life instead of actually building it? Well, that's the exact problem a guide called The Man's Grid Manifesto tackles head on. It's really for any guy out there who feels like they're underperforming and wants a real roadmap to rebuild their life from the ground up. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down its core ideas. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the problem the manifesto points to, what it calls the broken foundation. Then, we'll dive into its core philosophy and the 4 pillars it says are absolutely essential for mastery. And finally, we'll wrap up with the concrete first steps and the non-negotiable rules that are pretty much the backbone of this whole system. The manifesto kicks off with this line, and it's not really an introduction, it's more like a declaration. It's aimed squarely at that moment, that decision point where you finally say enough is enough. Enough with the confusion, enough with the frustration. This thing isn't just a guide, it's an answer to that exact feeling. Okay, so that leads us right into the first huge idea, which the manifesto calls the broken foundation. And the thinking here is simple, right? You can't build a solution if you don't really get the problem. So before it even thinks about offering answers, it digs super deep into this one question. Why do so many men feel so stuck? At the very heart of his whole diagnosis is this idea of drifting. The argument is that if you're just reacting to whatever life throws at you, you've already given up control. And this passive state, well, that's pinpointed as the direct cause of low confidence, unfulfilling relationships, and that really annoying, nagging feeling of being without a purpose.
So the natural question is, right, where does this drifting even come from? Is it a lack of ambition? A lack of guidance, maybe? The manifesto suggests that no matter who you are, the root cause is always the same.
And the answer it gives is this: the foundation is broken. This is the central metaphor for the entire guide. The idea is so simple but so powerful. You can't build a skyscraper, your confidence, your relationships, your success, on a foundation that's full of cracks. Every time you try, you're just going to end up frustrated. So if the problem is a broken foundation, then the solution has to be about rebuilding. And that brings us to the core philosophy, which is framed as building, not pretending. This is such a crucial shift, moving away from all the quick fixes and towards something that's real and actually lasts. So what exactly is the man's grid? Well, the manifesto defines it as a framework, a system. It's not about learning a bunch of tricks or tactics. It's about really internalizing these timeless principles of psychology and self-mastery. And this right here, this distinction, is really at the heart of the whole philosophy. The manifesto is crystal clear about this. It's all about transformation, not performance. Think about it. It's the difference between actually becoming confident versus just, pretending you are, or learning to communicate with real power instead of just memorizing a bunch of lines. The focus? It's all on that internal change. It all really boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea. It starts with you. The manifesto calls this radical self-responsibility. The argument is that your mindset, your discipline, your presence, those are the real starting points for any change you want to see on the outside. All the ownership is put squarely on you. Okay, so if the philosophy is all about self-responsibility, how do you actually go about rebuilding that foundation? Well, the manifesto structures all the work around these 4 pillars. You can think of them as the main load-bearing columns of a life that's built right. The first pillar is attraction and seduction, but it's probably defined in a way you're not expecting. The manifesto argues that real seduction isn't some tactic you use, it's a presence. It's the natural effect of who you are. It's all about embodying attractive traits that come from real confidence and self-respect, not faking them. Pillar number 2 is masculinity and self-development. The way the manifesto frames masculinity is as your internal engine, that force inside you that drives you to build and protect and lead. It's way less about how you look on the outside and more about internal qualities like purpose, discipline, and emotional strength. Ultimately, it's about becoming a man that you yourself can actually respect. Next up, Pillar 3, communication and confidence. And again, the manifesto makes a really key distinction here. True confidence, it isn't about being the loudest guy in the room. It's a quiet certainty that doesn't need everyone's approval. And communication, then, just becomes the tool you use to express that inner certainty through your words, your tone, and your body language. And the 4th pillar, dating and relationships, is really where it all comes together. The idea is that once you've built up the first 3 pillars, your inner game, your purpose, your communication, then you can lead in your relationships with clarity and integrity. And that's how you build connections that are actually meaningful.
So that's the framework, but let's be real, theory without action is pretty useless, right? This next section is all about making sure you don't just hear this stuff and do nothing. It's about turning philosophy into something you can do right now.
So the manifesto gives you 3 quick start steps to get you moving. First up, audit your foundation and be brutally honest about it. No sugarcoating. Second, you commit to just one, small, concrete action related to one of those pillars this week. And third, find one single habit that's weakening you and just get rid of it. The whole idea is that these small, decisive actions are what build real momentum. And finally, we get to the non-negotiables. Now, these aren't strategies or little tips. These are the fundamental principles that are supposed to guide every single decision you make inside this framework. Think of it like your personal operating system.
The first rule is so simple but so profound. Discipline over motivation. Look, motivation is just a feeling. It comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is a system you build. The manifesto argues that if you rely on how you feel, you're setting yourself up to fail. But if you rely on your systems, that's how you guarantee progress.
The second rule is lead yourself first. And the logic is pretty straightforward. How can you possibly expect to lead in your relationships or your career if you can't even lead yourself? It all has to start with you being in control of your own actions, your own emotions, and your own direction. The third rule totally reframes a feeling we all usually try to avoid. Discomfort is growth. Instead of seeing discomfort as a red flag, a signal to stop, the manifesto presents it as proof that you're on the right track. It argues that pretty much every skill worth having is on the other side of that feeling. And the final rule brings us right back to where we started. Fix the foundation first. This is just a constant reminder to ignore all those tempting shortcuts and the surface-level tactics. Because without a solid internal foundation, any success you have on the outside is just built on sand. And the manifesto wraps up by basically turning the tables back to you, the reader, with this call to action. It's essentially saying, look, here's the philosophy, here's the roadmap, but I can't walk it for you. The next step, it says, is what determines everything. So, when you get right down to it, the entire manifesto really boils down to this one choice. Are you going to keep drifting and just reacting to whatever life throws at you? Or are you going to make a conscious, deliberate choice to build it? And that question is not just a summary, it's a direct challenge.